Evan is now doing $40,000 a month. Last year he did absolutely nothing. He runs a hybrid offer doing content and info products. You guys will absolutely enjoy this interview.
All right. So, Evan, can you please tell everybody who you are, what you do, and where you're based?
All right, so my name's Evan. I'm 23 years old, currently living in South Korea, but then I also live in the States. So I'm kind of like from Korea and then States back and forth, something like that. But then I'm currently in the info product space with a bit of content. So we basically help to build and scale personal brands with info products and just digital products in general. And yeah, been doing it for around a year and a half. And overall, it's been a really great time.
Awesome. Tell me more about where you were before you started working with me.
So before working with a boss, I was still in college. I go to college in Northwestern in Chicago. And at the time, I was trying to figure out exactly what I was doing. I was very lost, confused, and also frustrated because I bought a course, but then just from going through the materials, it didn't really tell me exactly what I had to do based on my own situation. And because of that, I've been also watching a lot of YouTube videos on like info products or IPGA, just trying to really understand certain things here and there. But then that also didn't really give me the answer I was looking for. And during that same time, um I was in the online business space for around 4 or 5 months, but then I was making no money. And whenever I had to spend money, I was just pulling money out of my investment accounts that my parents had funded for. So it's really like a situation where I knew what I had to do, but then at the same time, I didn't have the proper materials or the guidance. So it's kind of, I felt like I was just going around in circles.
Yeah. How did you feel like taking money out of your investments account that your parent had, funded?
Um, like honestly, it wasn't like a super big amount. So
Okay.
I mean, like I didn't really tell my parents, but then at the time, like I knew that I had to take action to actually make some certain things happen. So later on down the path, my parents found out about it, but then by then I was also actually making profits. So I replaced the money back in. So when I first took out money from the investment accounts, it definitely felt bad because it's probably something that my parents didn't want me to do. But
Mm.
then at the same time, I kind of had like this state where it was like I either do this or this whole thing, like this whole amount of time they spent um first trying to start a business was just gonna not go in the right path. So it's kind of like a decision, like a split decision that I made
Okay.
just out of impulse. But then, yeah,
So kind of like not doing it in an ethical way, but you knew that the amount would like kind of help you in the future and kind of well you could give the return of invest back to the
yeah,
parents.
yeah. It was a 10x investment.
Mm. That's awesome. So in terms of that and back to like before we ended up working together, how many clients were you having before?
So before I had one client, but then at the same time, I also didn't really understand how partnerships worked because I've never been in business or I've never really been interested in business. So when I was first starting off, I was lucky enough to quote unquote sign a client in the first month of starting IPGA. But then this thing happened where I was doing a lot of the work, but then the client really didn't do anything. So I ended up just terminating the partnership because I just felt like one, it wasn't gonna actually work out, but then two, I just didn't feel like the client was on the same timeline or same uh I guess I guess like same direction as me. So before it was mainly like a thing where I knew that I wanted to work with a person, but then I was just chasing them, trying to figure out a way to get on a call with them, but then at the end of the day, it didn't really end up happening. So it was either like zero clients or almost getting to a client, but then never actually happening. And then again, like going around in circles.
And why do you feel you were going into circles? Like,
I think the main thing, the main reason why I was going around in circles is that I think the biggest thing being that I didn't have the proper foundations or the proper knowledge as to the steps or the things that I have to do. For example, when a client is interested or a person shows interest, I quickly understood that if a person is interested, I have to respond to them as soon as possible and then hold on to their attention while they still have it. And I think sometimes just being lazy and then just not knowing exactly what I had to do to get a prospect from cold to warm and then warm to closed, like the steps or the workflow that goes into place for there. I think that was the biggest thing that I lacked, like the foundation and then the knowledge that I have for when it comes to talking to clients and then actually getting them on calls and then what it actually means to close a client.
and yeah, we ended up working together because you needed some, clarity, guidance, and steps. Tell me more about your experience, the first month working with me, and how it kind of affected your situation in your business.
So overall, before working with a boss, I was watching probably like hundreds of different videos that I found on YouTube about like things like how to sign your first client or how to do your outreach, what kind of material that I should send over to people to attract the right person, or just how to actually just like show that I have something to offer when I don't have any like testimonials, things like that. So the main reason why I worked with our boss in the first place was because he, in a way, he was clearly understanding my goals along with the solutions, like tailored solutions based on my context and the people I was talking to. So the fact that he had like some kind of knowledge that I wanted to know more about was one of the main reasons why I work with him. But then the first few months of working at our boss was, I'll say, really eye-opening, mainly because not because I just paid like money to get coaching, but then the information that he was giving me was like it was the right kind of it was the exact kind of information or the exact kind of steps that I needed to actually get to like signing my first dream client and then launching the offer and also just like small things like maintaining good relationships with your clients, getting referrals, and then being able to just like deliver as a service-based business. So everything from just hopping on calls with him, messages, and whenever I had a question, even if it was like probably like some brain rot question, him just like answering to those was really helpful.
Nice. Yeah, you kind of signed a big client in the beginning. I can say with, being proud and stuff like that. How was your experience, having a going from a bad client who didn't respect the effort and the input that you put in, the work and partnership, to go from having a client who kind of gave you the same back. So the more input you gave, the more he gave to you. But also on top of that, him being confident into investing in you and you basically having that, okay, first type of
Mm.
good setup fee compared to the first one who kind of just, you know, wasn't committed fully and was like kind of, a headache to work with.
Um, I'll say the biggest thing is like I think a lot of people might agree to this where when they're first doing outreach or when they're first just working towards like the first step, it feels like you're doing like so much work every single day, the same kind of work, but then it's not really going anywhere, so it feels useless. And then I feel like that's where a lot of people quit when it comes to business. But then I think I was lucky enough to be able to reach out to the right person. And then for this client in particular, I signed him exactly a year ago, but then I still have him as a client. And at this point, I view him more as like a business partner than just a client. And we're also really good friends. So I think the biggest thing is being able to continuously optimize, but then also get a lot of feedback from that client as to like things I could improve as a business owner or things I could improve for the business. And then the biggest thing is probably like the return that I get back from having the client. So through him, I was able to meet a lot of his friends and then a lot of close people from him. But then being able to work on offers that you actually enjoy working on, and then just being able to actually see like the business explode compared to like having a really bad client. I think like those, it's not even about like the monetary gains, like the monetary ROIs, but then the feeling of having like a client that actually cares or like a client that you look forward to working with every single day is probably like the biggest thing.
So good to hear, man. So basically, you're telling me that, yeah, like dream client, you're waking up, enjoying every moment compared to, back when you were like feeling kind of one way in terms of not getting any relationship out of it, but also like just feeling that you were doing like empty work and it wasn't 100% appreciated.
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
definitely.
Evan, so when I first met you, you were basically at zero in monthly current revenue, and you were kind of lost and, didn't have the guidance and the roadmap that you have right now. Where are you right
Hmm.
now in terms of clients, monthly recurrent revenue? Um,
So, yeah. So currently I'm working with just 3 clients, but then even if the number of clients seems small, they're like dream clients in terms of how I view them, mainly because they're just projects and things that I really enjoy doing. And just yesterday we broke 40K a month in recurring revenue. So business and revenue wise, we're doing really good. And we're probably onboarding another client through a referral in the next 2 weeks. So really excited for that. And honestly, just looking back, it's been a really long journey, but then a very rewarding one.
awesome, man. Like basically from going from zero to 40K MRR.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel? Like you feel like super humble. It doesn't really, the facial expression doesn't really, you're just like dialed in, grinding. But if you just take a step back, like, do you sometimes recognize like, damn, they're making, 40K monthly recurring revenue, which is, still a lot of money. How does it
Yeah.
make you feel, and how is your life right now?
Life is honestly really good because we're currently working on one big offer right now. And just having like the right systems makes it so much easier to scale. And it makes it so much easier to look for like areas to optimize and just being able to work on something that makes your client happy, but then also makes you happy. I think are the biggest things for like my happiness and sanity. But then I think the biggest thing is probably like being able to have the freedom of not worrying about like certain things in life, like academics, bills, and like random stuff like that. That just makes going forward a lot easier. And then even so, like probably like just buying certain things, I don't think I'm a huge person when it comes to buying like super expensive things, but then being able to buy like, for example, like there's a watch that I picked up earlier this year and been wearing that a lot lately, but then small things like that, just having like a lot more freedom to like do what I want, travel when I want, but also like be able to give back to people who like sacrifice a lot for me. I feel like those are the biggest things when it comes to just like making money in general. It's not even about like the super big things like buying like a Lambo and then spending like 50K at the club, like things like that, but then just feeling a lot more relaxed in general.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good feeling. Feeling
Yeah.
relaxed, giving back to the people around you and just enjoy, you know? I love that you're still humble, like you mentioned a watch and stuff like that, and still being humble. I think I know which watch you're talking about, but let's just
I actually
keep
lost the
that.
watch.
Yeah, let's keep that anonymous and let's have people think about what type of watch it was.
Yeah.
Um, so you kind of went from, yeah, as we kind of mentioned a few times, being like going in circles and, being stuck, not having the proper guidance, probably too much information out there, and who to trust, who's doing it themselves. What would you recommend others to do, like in your situation or just in general, like people that are stuck? Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is when you're first starting off, I would definitely recommend just trying to figure out certain things on your own instead of directly looking for guidance. Because I think that the most important thing that people have to understand is that even if you pay the most expensive amount to get coaching, if you don't know what you're doing yourself, or if you don't have like the foundations like discipline or just like actually putting the amount of work in, it won't matter because there's a lot of people who think that it's just really easy if you just find the right person. But then I could probably say that it's not. So what I recommend a lot of people to do is when you first start off in business, at least for the first 2 months, I recommend just like going like head first into like a concrete floor, just trying out different things, just trying to figure out exactly where to get to and what the problems are. And then even then, if you still have problems, then I'll say looking for the right mentor or the right coach is the right answer. Because even for me, I feel like I could have just found a coach within the first like first 2 or 3 months. But then the main reason why I didn't do that was because I wanted to figure out as much info as I could on my own, figure out exactly what I had to do, and then from there be able to um sort of like when you later get a coach or someone to learn from, then you have like the exact set of questions that you have to ask to get like your money's worth, or to basically like find the things that actually help your business to scale. Because I feel like there's a lot of people who just want to um look for like the super easy path, things like that. But then if you have certain foundations, not even like business foundations, but then just like foundations as a person, like motivation, discipline, just putting in the hours, having like the willpower to actually do certain things. Once you have the foundations and then you get a coach that actually feels right for you, then I'll say that like the experience and the knowledge that you can get from the person is going to be like super transformative and super valuable.
Mm. What would you say the biggest takeaways, or let me rephrase, give the person watching this video right now like three takeaways that are like non-negotiable in terms of getting success with their agency, their info product growth agency, and in general, just info products?
Mm. I think the number one thing is what I say to a lot of people who reach out to me as well is that I feel like momentum is like it's literally everything. So like even for me, I had like even when I was doing 20K a month, I had a period like not too long ago, like 2 months ago, when I felt like I was still making money, but then I just didn't have motivation or I just didn't have like the willpower to do certain things, like to fix certain things in the business that would actually help us to get to like 30, 40, like 50, even like 6 figures a month. So finding if you have like momentum, then actually just like sticking on to it and then just riding the wave, putting the hours, things like that is really important. So I feel like momentum is different from motivation. So when things are going good in the business, or when you feel like you're getting close to something, like signing your first client or getting the first info product sale or um things like that, I'll say like instead of just celebrating it right away, uh consistently like stacking small wins, like showing up and then sending messages, setting up like workflows or systems helps a lot, especially if you want to get to a certain point. Second thing is probably if somebody gives you like a set of resources, instead of just trying to copy and paste it into your own business or your own situation, application is probably very important because I feel like even if a lot of you guys watching probably have IPGAs or are or want to start an IPGA, you might have the same exact offer, but then the person who's doing the person who's actually running the IPGA, we all have different backgrounds. So instead of just generically copy and pasting information into your landing page offer or outreach messages, putting in a lot of personalization and customization also is super important because even for us, we never really send any copy and paste generic messages to clients or even for one-to-one coaching or one-to-one offers for clients. But then once you add a bit of personalization or spend even like 5 or 10 minutes more on each prospect, I could almost guarantee that the response rate is probably going to jump from like 10% all the way to like 40 or 50% just on the customization. And third thing, I'll say if you're stuck doing business or if you're stuck at a certain point where you feel like you've watched through like or you've listened to so much other people but then don't really know what's going on or just looking for the right solution. I'll say if there are people that feel like they're doing better than you, or if there's people that you feel like they know something that you don't, or you could get something from them, then you should definitely just like even reach out with like a question. It doesn't have to be with the intention of like buying something that they offer, but then even small questions in like group chats or like on Instagram, YouTube, emails, things like that, it helps a lot because I'll say I'll say like 1 out of 10 times, there's gonna be a person who's gonna be willing to help you answer that question, even if it's for free. And yeah, I feel like those three things are the biggest takeaways that I could give.
Yeah, super, super valuable. In terms of you kind of feeling, let me rephrase. Bro, I got a notification, Evan, like saying that we need to upgrade the. I have I have
Yeah.
okay, we have 8 minutes left. Otherwise, I need to upgrade. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll just cut this out.
Yeah.
Okay, so super valuable points, Evan. And I think people, if they really implement and listen to what you're saying right now, they will see some sort of growth in their own path. And I couldn't agree more in terms of foundations, in terms of doing that bit of extra personalization or customization, because it just shows that you stand out. If you stand out, people will give you the attention. And from that attention, you're able to get people on calls and, eventually sign them if you're able to fix their pain or find a big opportunity that can generate them some money or give them more freedom.
Hmm.
You be kind of so going back to seeing a lot of people out there and a lot of value information that you probably have been covered and seen. Why did you end up working with me compared to the people out there?
Yeah, so I think the biggest reason why I probably reached out to you in the first place was because I've gotten quite a lot of offers from different people who wanted to coach me or sell some kind of offer on me, but then for me personally, it didn't really feel genuine. It felt like they were just trying to make money off of me, or they didn't have like the exact information that I was looking for. But then this is also like approach that a boss teaches in his coaching, so I won't mention it too much. But then basically like the amount of free value and the free consulting he just gave me, even before like first asking for the invoice, was probably like the biggest thing that kind of led me to make the initial decision. And then the second thing being um, the people around him, because I feel like apart from just like the knowledge I was able to gain from him, being able to learn from guest speakers or people inside of his network was something that was also extremely valuable. And it was also one of the things that helped me to branch out from just being a normal IPGA onto kind of like a hybrid agency of doing also info, but then also content as well. So those two things, and just like getting the personalized and tailored solutions based on my own situation instead of like the generic stuff that you see online through like different gurus or different content creators or quote unquote IPJ owners, getting the personalized advice and personalized experience was probably like the biggest thing paired up with the over delivery that he was able to give me. Like even well after the mentorship had ended, I think I could say that we still are really good friends, and then just being able to like continuously ask questions, even if it's not on like a transactional relationship. So those things are probably like the biggest reasons why I never really look back or regret on making that decision. But then I'm actually just rather very thankful for it.
Having network in South Korea and yeah, just being able to help is like what I think coaching should be about. Um, so I might have the last question here for you, Evan.
Mm.
And you've been doing so good so far in terms of scaling your business, learning how business is working, learning how to work with people, because at the end of the day, it's like a people's business to people's business. And
Yeah.
that's something you've been really, really nailing. And I know that you've been doing some things behind the scenes, working on some projects. If you can give like a bit of sneak peek to what you're working on, but also explain
Mm.
to the person out there what's your next goal is, and also probably some achievements that you kind of want to
Mm.
achieve before the year ends.
Yeah, so I think the biggest goal that I have right now is actually getting to start my own personal brand. I feel like it's kind of ironic that I don't have a personal brand when I help people to build and monetize their personal brands. So I've been seeing a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs and people with businesses start personal brands on YouTube, and people saying how it's been super valuable for them and how like words cannot express like how valuable it has been. So I'm currently in the works of editing a YouTube video for my first ever YouTube channel. So that's currently in the works and goals. I'll say 10K subscribers by the end of the year. I think it's a pretty big goal, but then I think that with the right systems, etc., I'll be able to hit it. And then right now, I feel like apart from just monetary profit, we have really exciting projects behind the scenes. For example, we're currently helping out with some content with one of the former creative directors for Ferrari, Loro Piana, and North Face. So the content is already up. You might be able to find it on Instagram. For purposes, I won't leak who, but then we also are working on content with some pretty big names in the space. People you've probably may have bought products from or you may have heard of. And we also have a really big launch that's coming up with our main clients right now. We've already been able to hit 40K in profit for this client in just 14 days because we just have the right systems. But then I think with the current pace that we have, we'll be able to scale to 80K by the end of this month. So super excited for that. And then based on that, we also have a low ticket offer that's launching towards end of Q3. So super excited for those. And
Awesome.
that's kind of like what's going on.
Awesome. You have a lot of things going on, man. And how do you,
Yeah.
last question, I just wanted to hear, how are you able to manage, everything that you kind of have going on?
Um, I think the biggest thing is just like, I guess it really goes back to the first point that I made, where if you have clients or if you have offers that you really like working on, then it doesn't really seem like it's extra work or like a big bag of like luggage that you have to carry around from like place to place. But then for me, because it's things that I actually enjoy doing, I I don't mind putting in extra hours to actually work on it. And right now, I think just like what our boss mentioned, being able to, because business is a people to people kind of thing, just by being able to manage the right team members and then having the right systems, and then just working with the right people really makes like a big difference. And yeah.
Awesome. I think that was clutch, and let's just keep it right there, ending with a
Yeah.
good quote and beginning as well. So yeah, bro, was nice speaking with you. And once you hit 100K, we'll do a part two.
Yeah. Like and subscribe.
Yeah, all right, man. Peace.